Hey, race fans, Hall of Famer Darrel Waltrip here. You know, it's time to drop the green flag on another edition of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. So, hey, pull those belts tight one more time. Here's my buddy Hermie Sadler and Senator Bill Stanley. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's see what they have to say, boys and girls.
I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right.
And I'm former NASCAR driver and Fox Sports analyst Hermie Sadler, and I am turning left, leaning right, and turning left with Sadler and the Senator. As always, powered by Pace-O-Matic. Good morning, Senator.
Hermie Sadler, how you doing, bud?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're not together. Usually I like us when we're together doing our podcast. It just seems to flow. But today it's going to be you and I on our local podcasting, what is it, Riverside apparatus platform. And I'm in my conference room here at the Stanley Law Group at the Mothership in Moneta, Virginia, right here at beautiful Smith Mountain Lake. And as I'm looking at you through the video, you are in a special spot. You're not in your normal spot in Emporia, are you?
I'm sitting in the seat of royalty.
Indeed.
This morning, Senator Stanley. I am sitting in the office/podcast studio of none other than one of our bosses at Podcast Heat, WWE Hall of Famer, the Jeff Jarrett. I'm actually in Jeff's studio in Hendersonville, Tennessee, barring his, you can see all the gold behind me, the belts and the trophies and
serious
and all that. So I'm
serious hardware.
I'm barring the studio of the King of the Mountain, Double J Jeff Jarrett. I'm actually out here in Nashville for the Michael and Darrel Waltrip charity events. They raise money every year for Motor Racing Outreach. That's the group that does all the church services and takes care of the kids and family members of the drivers on the NASCAR circuit. Of course, they were a big help to my brother and I all the years that we were full-time in the series. And although I'm retired from TV and not a part of the Fox family anymore, Darrel and Michael, we had Michael on the show a couple months ago. Darrel and Michael Waltrip are still two of my best friends and people that I respect a lot, and they've done a lot for me. So this is my 22nd consecutive year, once a year, being out in Tennessee to support Darrel and Michael Waltrip and Motor Racing Outreach. So I drove out to Nashville last night, and Jeff and I and Karen are going to dinner with some of my old Fox friends tonight that I used to work TV with. And then there's golf tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. And then I'm going to start my way back home on Thursday, eventually getting back to the western part of the state of Virginia, because I'm not sure about you, but I have an appearance Friday night with the Pace-O-Matic people. So I'm going to get back in time for that Friday. And of course on Saturday, the Smart Racing Series season finale is Saturday. So I got a lot going on this week, but it'll be a fun week.
Yeah. Well, and don't you have a grudge match, a wrestling match that must be taking place? We've had some run-ups to it. Very important wrestling match. You are, as professed, previously undefeated in pro wrestling, but you've got an important match coming up right now with the progeny of Double J. Do you not?
I do. I showed you a video a couple weeks ago at my daughter's wedding when Karen and Jeff and Cody came to the wedding. We had a little bit of a scuffle, you might say. Cody and I did at the wedding reception. But every time I come to Hendersonville, Tennessee, we have to have a match. And so Cody's already showed me this morning the wrestling gear that he plans to wear in the match tomorrow. We've got a press conference scheduled later tonight here at the Jarrett household. Jeff Jarrett's actually going to moderate the press conference, and Karen is going to tape it, and we're going to send it to Conrad Thompson with Podcast Heat. So they're going to put a little thing together about it. And the big day is tomorrow. And we got 4 belts on the line. Cody's got 3 belts. I brought a belt with me from from Emporia, and all 4 belts will be on the line. Cody Angle against Hermie Sadler, and what Cody Angle says will be Hermie's final match.
You willing to put your undefeated wrestling career on the line against Cody? And how old is Cody again?
14.
Oh, okay. So you're willing to put your undefeated championship belt on the line against really what is it's a legacy of wrestling there. I mean, he's got to have just genetically some of the moves already down.
He's
ready to take
his dad, Kurt Angle, stepdad, Jeff Jarrett, mom, Karen, they all have tremendous legacies in the sport of professional wrestling. And Cody has a hard time playing by the rules.
What do you mean by that?
And plus, I'm on his home turf.
Right.
So I've got my work cut out for me, for sure.
We're going to be in a ring, right? This is going to be in the ring, right?
Yeah, we got a ring in the backyard, and this is not a. Actually, I drove all night last night and got here around 5 o'clock this morning, 5:30, and Cody didn't know I was here. But once Cody saw me at the house, he then declined to go to school because he was worried that I would be messing with his belts and his wrestling gear in his room while he was at school. So he stayed here today, and actually he and I and Jeff just went to the Waffle House here in Hendersonville, and we had a pre-press conference breakfast.
Nice.
It was a little heated, Bill, a little heated.
Yeah.
But we made it, we pulled it off. So now this is a good opportunity for me during the podcast to remain separated from Cody. We have to be separated for right now until, of course, the press conference later tonight here at the Jarrett residence.
So you're in the midst of a cooling off period, I guess, right? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, you guys have gone to your respective.
I tried to have talks with you about this in the past. Cooling off periods,
right.
mourning periods,
right.
Whatever you want to call them. Everybody deals with things in a different way. So right now, for me, it's just a matter of letting Cody think about it. Just letting him think about it.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, you usually have these cooling off periods around sporting events. Where I've seen it has been in racing and our team, our ups and downs with the team this year in Smart Series. But what's your plan of attack? I mean, what are you going to tell the listener here about how you're going to approach this Angle Jarrett legacy wrestling? I mean, that's wrestling royalty. How are you going to approach this to try to maintain your undefeated position against a 14-year-old?
Well, it's tough. It's anything goes. And what's worse than that is Cody seems to have the ability to change the rules as he sees fit, even during the match. So, I got to be ready for anything. I've been told that Jeff Jarrett, in addition to mediating the press conference, he's also going to referee the match tomorrow afternoon as well. So, plus I'll be tired. I got to get up crack of dawn in the morning. We tee off at 8 o'clock in the morning in the Waltrip Brothers Charity Championship over at the Legends Club at Vanderbilt University in the morning. So I'll be worn out. I'll be tired. Cody will be, ready to go and very anxious to try to maintain his 3 belts and the belt that I brought from Emporia. He's saying that all 4 belts are staying in Hendersonville, and I'm retiring after the match tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
Sounds like you're already making excuses to what may be the outcome of this really, colossal match. A colossal match indeed.
It's going to be colossal, that I can promise you. Painful for Hermie in more ways than one.
Will we be able to put some of this on the podcast next week to kind of maybe relive, recount, and go over chapter and verse what happened here and why maybe you either retained your belt or you lost your belt?
I've got an idea. You just gave me an idea.
That never happens.
Next week on the podcast, we've had Jeff Jarrett on the podcast several times.
3 times.
But I'm going to see what I can do to entice the queen of the mountain, Karen Jarrett, to come on the podcast, not only to explain to us how it is that she stays married to Jeff, but I will let her see if we can get her to give us an update on the match between Cody and I. I'll work on that.
That would be great. And doesn't Cody have like a signature move when it comes to wrestling you?
Yeah, a lot of people call it different things depending on the setting. But basically, the way you describe it that most everybody understands is a quick, stiff kick in the nuts.
Yeah, that's quite a move. That's a little more effective than a power bomb.
When Cody experiences any kind of setback or if something doesn't go exactly right in the match, that's his, I guess you would call it his default move is kick the balls.
Well, let's make sure you're manscaped before that happens, okay? Because you want to be groomed. But good luck in your match. That's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. And seriously, tape some of it. Get somebody to tape some of it. We'll play it on next week's podcast, and we'll go back to the match.
Get Karen to maybe come on for a few minutes and give us some, give her her version of what happens. But I'm taking it seriously. I'm real, I would really like to retire with an undefeated record. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm rooting for Cody. I got to go with Cody. I mean, I think I was looking at just now the Las Vegas line.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You cannot use your fingers that way on a podcast. Nobody can see that. But that's the double bird.
Just when I think me and you are good to go.
That's the double bird again. I got the double bird
Ride
again.
or die.
I love you, brother.
For
but I'm looking at these Las Vegas lines right now, and it's way heavy for Cody. So I'm just going to say, the betting line is definitely not turning towards Sadler. It's definitely.
I just hope he doesn't find some of those shoes that the Iron Sheik used to wear with those points on the end of them.
Add that to the ball buster, and yeah, you'd be in some serious problems. Well,
hey, I do want to take a moment and thank Pace-O-Matic for their sponsorship of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. As we mention every week, Pace-O-Matic provides and develops gaming software that players love to play, and they can use their skills to win every single time. Not only that, Pace-O-Matic and their games have been crucial as they have been operating legally because of our injunction, Senator Stanley, in convenience stores, truck stops, restaurants, and bars across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we continue to fight that fight. And this podcast and our Sadler Stanley racing team are two more vehicles that Pace-O-Matic helps us to keep our message out front and center and keep the hopes and dreams of small business owners alive and well against government overreach and the big money casino interests from out of state. We will continue to fight, and we appreciate Pace-O-Matic giving us this platform and opportunity to keep talking about things from our perspective, and we appreciate everybody tuning in to listen to it as well.
Yeah, and that trial is coming up November 2nd. Just finish the witness and exhibit lists, see what they're putting up. Hermie, I don't know how, unless we start trial at 6 o'clock in the morning and end at midnight on November 2nd, how we're ever going to finish that trial in one day. It's just amazing to me what I'm seeing there, but I'm very confident in what we have, extremely confident. I'm not so confident in the Virginia's part of the case, but, they're throwing everything at us, and I guess, that's the way it's got to go, and we'll be ready. But, man, it's a lot of evidence, a lot of witnesses, a lot of testimony. You're going to testify. It's going to be quite a legal battle that we have enjoyed the fight. We've fought hard, and hopefully we'll get the resolution that we anticipate at the end of whenever that court case finishes. But we've got motions hearings coming up. We've got, in between our races on the Saturday, the next week we go into motions hearing. Then the Sadler Stanley race team will be appearing at the Wheeling Modified in Martinsville. And then we go into our bunker and start to prepare for November 2nd. So we've got a heavy schedule coming up here for your case alone.
it's odd, or, I'll let y'all handle the legal day-to-day part, but it's just strange that the last time we were in court, as far as the Commonwealth side, it was a couple attorneys from the Attorney General's office, and they stick this language in the budget so to get another bite at the apple, to try to ban the games and do all that. Now, all of a sudden, they're bringing in all these experts, and I think there are 3 maybe that they have submitted.
Yeah.
Experts and things they want to bring in. So they, right, wrong, or indifferent, they are certainly approaching things differently as we head to court this time than they did last time.
That's for sure. But, you can't get around the one issue that is most important, which is this is a First Amendment protected by the Constitution right. And I think the policy decisions that the state made that they're going to try to assert why we don't want skill games in small businesses throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia is specious. It's not supported by fact. And so we're going to attack that in every direction. And I think, quite frankly, I hate to see when the Commonwealth of Virginia that softened its stance on gaming. We used to have it illegal, but when we allowed gambling into the Commonwealth of Virginia, we gave it away to the out-of-state casinos without ever allowing our small businesses in Virginia to participate, and that's just wrong. So I don't think the policy decisions are correct. I don't think they can even prove why Virginia did this. I think it was a small group of legislators that decided for themselves that this was not the kind of gaming that they wanted in Virginia for no other good reason. And I think we're going to be able to prevail. And I think we've got some very strong arguments. But, in my leaning right moment today, we're going to talk a little bit about the lottery and what's happening there with gambling and gaming. And so, as a matter of fact, let's just talk about it now. Because I think we're talking about gambling in the specific sense of skill games, but I think we can talk about it more generally because the JLARC, the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, came out with a report on what they were going to do in terms of how they were going to regulate and oversee this new gambling market and industry that they've created here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And what we've seen is JLARC said basically give it to the Virginia Lottery entirely. And I don't know about you, Hermie, but that gives me some pause and concern because lottery in and of itself is a competitor. Lottery in and of itself hired consultants to assist it that were consultants for Big Casino. So I don't know. I think maybe JLARC punted on this issue because I think the best thing to do is just like in Nevada, they have a gaming commission. Now, as a Republican, somebody might say, well, Bill Stanley, isn't that creating more government? Well, you've created an industry that requires some government oversight, and it's a little bit more than the office of the scratchers, where they're concerned about their revenues, and now they're going to oversee gambling and gaming in Virginia. I just don't see where that works.
Yeah, it's just so muddy. It's just so muddy. Everything in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I would agree. I had a 22-year relationship with the Virginia Lottery, not only as a retailer through my convenience stores and truck stops, but on the marketing and PR side. For 22 years, I represented the Virginia Lottery, not only on the racetrack, but also sales, marketing, special events, things of that nature. And it's just really, disappointing to me kind of where we are and how we got here and all that. And look, I've read all the stuff that was sent to me about JLARC and, how they want to put everything under lottery and lottery's best position for this and lottery's best position for that. But the most frustrating thing for me, Bill, or part of what frustrates me, Bill, is it doesn't even appear that skill games and small businesses are even being considered at all in any of these conversations going on by these committees in their studies. So why is it that Virginia small businesses, there are hundreds of them, the backbone of these economies across the Commonwealth of Virginia, why are we not even being recognized as part of the overall plan in the Commonwealth of Virginia? It's almost like we're just being ignored.
Well, exactly. And if you look at the JLARC study, in their summary, They say, quote, in addition, unregulated gaming has proliferated across the state over the past several years through electronic gaming terminals in convenience stores, truck stops, restaurants, referred to as gray machines by the gaming industry, and games of skill by the machine's owners. As of the date of this report, these machines' legal status remains in question. So you're seeing what you and I have been talking about, which is actually the gaming interests, JLARC, lottery, casinos, have all lumped together illegal gaming machines, which are games of chance, electronic games of chance, have no First Amendment protection. They're lumping them in and calling everything now a gray machine or a skill game. We've talked about that before. That is the biggest misnomer that they do. And then they say, well, we have this little sliver of legal games by a court order, but they're illegal games. They're games of chance. Even the experts that are going to bring to your trial are going to try to say that. That's the biggest load of baloney I've ever heard. And so what I hated to see in government, especially from an independent government commission called JLARC, is them proliferating the false narrative that all machines out there, because you have had a proliferation, they say about 9,000 unregistered machines outside of the skilled machines that you and I got protected, are there. I think that 9,000 number is way low, but these, again, are not gray machines. They're not... that's the derogatory term for skill machines, skill games. They're not skill games. They're games of chance. They're video slot machines that are showing up in these restaurants, bars, and convenience stores. Not the kind that we're fighting for. We should all be fighting against that kind of illegal gaming because there's no control over it. There's no oversight on it. And quite frankly, most times it's a criminal element. And what I found most funny in this JLARC report, Hermie, is, again, you and I have talked about how Virginia Lottery has said, and casinos have said, that gray machines cut into their profits, cut into the incomes that they make and the number that they get. Listen to this. In 2018, before Virginia's anti-gambling stance softened, roughly $3.4 billion were wagered on state lottery games, charitable gaming, and traditional horse racing in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That number grew steadily as the state approved more ways to gamble, with now $13 billion estimated to be wagered in 2022. And by 2025, when 4 casinos are expected to be open in the Commonwealth of Virginia, total wagering could grow to $21 billion. How is that? What are they mad because $13 billion should have been $13.2 billion? $21 billion in 2025 should be $21.5 billion. I mean, these are astronomical numbers of money wagered by people in the Commonwealth of Virginia that's going out of state. And I don't know how in God's Green River that you could ever say that skill games in a restaurant, bar, truck stop, or convenience store is somehow hampering the Virginia Lottery and hampering this new casino industry, especially with those numbers. Tell me I'm wrong.
Bill, through our lawsuit and all the facts, and that's the frustrating part, everybody on the other side of this argument, if you want to call it that, is trying to push this narrative that skill games can't be regulated. Skill games are killing the lottery. Skill games this, skill games that, to a point, bullet point by bullet point by bullet point. We have proven that the narratives that they are pushing are wrong. Kevin Hall, in his deposition in your office, finally admitted that in the tax and regulation period year of the Virginia ABC was the biggest year the lottery had up to that point. And, of course, they've surpassed that even since then. And he also even admitted that the information that the General Assembly was given and was pushed during the narrative of trying to get people to want to ban skill games, all that information was compiled by casinos to push a certain narrative. So every dart they've thrown at us, we have proven to be not true, not accurate. And it's just really, really sad. And now, to your point, what all the casino people want. They want the general public that is not involved in it like we are, or is not as close to the issue as we are. They want the general public to think that all these games that proliferated into the state when the ABC oversight was taken away, they want everybody to think that they're all skill games, and they're, Hermie Sadler and Bill Stanley got this injunction, and look what happened. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Those games, the illegal games, were already coming into the state even before I filed my lawsuit, or before we filed our lawsuit, because the illegal operators already knew what the plan was in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That was at all cost ban these skill games, and along with that was the fact that there would be no oversight, no enforcement. And so these people, illegal operators, popped up all over the state. And like I said, they want everybody that don't know any better to lump all of us together in one big ball of bad news. And that's not us. We are representing legal small business owners that were operating legal games of skill that have been legal in the Commonwealth of Virginia for years and years and years and years. And by the way, we did it the right way. And so they have, in their haste to try to ban these games and hurt small businesses just so the casinos can get a monopoly, at the same time, they have created just the wild, wild west all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And if we don't put our differences behind us and get together on the same page and combine our resources and create a fair and equitable playing field for everybody and work together to get rid of the illegal operators, it's going to be a tough road to hoe to get this cleaned back up in Virginia. But just do not misunderstand. It's not the fault of small business owners, and it's not the fault of skill games. It's the fault of the casino lobby and the General Assembly that was forced, pushed, enticed, encouraged, lobbied, whatever you want to call it, to unconstitutionally ban these games. And they've opened the door wide open for the illegals to come into Virginia. And now they got a problem on their hands, way bigger than worried about small businesses maybe turning a few dollars profit with their legal skill games.
Well, and I'm reading, and I'm going to read to you, Graham Muma put an article out in the Virginia Mercury and about this very issue and about the JLARC study report and about turning this over to Virginia Lottery. And he writes, quote, officials believe Virginia also has more than 9,000 unregulated skill machines in truck stops, convenience stores, and restaurants. Those machines, which were briefly regulated by Virginia ABC because they were set up in establishments with alcohol licenses, aren't subject to gambling taxes and are currently operating in legal limbo as the industry challenges, I guess you're the industry now there, Hermie, challenges the General Assembly's persistent effort to ban the games. Having no one keeping tabs on the money flowing through those machines creates a risk for fraudulent activities, the JLARC report said. Quote, as a result, businesses that receive a proportion of machine revenue have no way of knowing whether they are receiving the correct amount of money from the machines manufacturers, the report says. Further, consumers who play the machines have no assurances that the games are fair. The lack of regulation makes it difficult to know how many skill games there actually are, JLARC said. But the number could grow to $20,000 if left 20,000 machines, if left unchecked. If the state were to legalize and regulate the machines, oversight of that industry could be handled by the Virginia Lottery as well, report says. Well, number one, they're lumping them all together. The games of chance are now skill games. That's what JLARC is doing. They're doing it wrongly, so they've got that narrative going that this is all evil. I know Pace-O-Matic itself and the other ones that do this, that have the legitimate skill games out pursuant to the injunction that you were able to obtain, and I, as your lawyer on your behalf, quite frankly, they are keeping every red cent in a credit to their credit and making sure that their games operate in the ways that they operate before. Here's the other thing. These are skill games. skill games based on the fact that you can, with the proper skill, win every time. And the amounts are plainly there. Those continue to be regulated in the same way by the industry or by the maker in the way that they were when they were legal in Virginia. So we don't have to worry about whether or not there are assurances that the games are fair to the player if it's a skill game that has been allowed to continue by the current court order, that injunction in Greensville County. It's the skill game. It's the non-skill games. It's the games of chance out there, the VGTs, video game terminals, that are unregulated, that are games of chance, that we don't know where they come from. There's not a reputable manufacturer. That's what you worry about. But they glump them all together, and here's what we're left with. But we'll have to see. I just don't think Virginia Lottery's up for the task, especially when, you mentioned earlier, Kevin Hall, the lottery pushed a narrative to the General Assembly when they were trying to ban skill games that it was stealing money, basically taking away money from lottery revenues, which in turn was stealing it from the children in our public school system. That turned out to be not true. And again, as I said, they use consultants who consult with or for the casinos. How are we as a government going to be able to trust that what comes out of the oversight agency, if it's the Virginia Lottery, is going to be accurate at every turn, not play favorites, and administer everything evenly? That's why I think you've got to have a gaming commission. Every large state that has a gaming commission, it does very well. It's got its own judicial system inside of it. And in its regulatory scheme, it's not over-governmenting things. I think you have to have some regulation. This is a vice, for God's sakes. And so I'm a little concerned as a legislator, as a state senator, that having the Virginia Lottery oversee is like letting the fox guard the hen house. I just don't see how this is a good move for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And reading the report, I think J. Lark punted on this thing. This was the easy answer, not necessarily the right answer.
Here's the problem for me, Bill, and you've known me long enough to know really what frustrates me on some of these issues. The lottery, as I mentioned earlier, I've had a 22-year relationship with the lottery, and I'm still a retail partner of theirs in my stores. I would have a whole lot more respect for the lottery and these casino lobbyists and their investors and all these people from Vegas and Chicago if they would just come out, if the lottery would just come out and say, we don't want these games because we think they harm our business. That's one thing. But they haven't done that. They've tried to come at us and to the general public and say, you small businesses that operate these skill games are taking money from the kids. Y'all are hurting lottery sales, therefore cutting back on the amount of money that should be going to public schools across the Commonwealth of Virginia. We proved that wrong. Then they come in and say, these skill game manufacturers brought these games in the middle of the night when nobody was looking. They brought these games in the back door and set them up, and they proliferated and nobody ever knew. We proved that to be incorrect, as ABC testified that these manufacturers brought games in, they were played, independent analysis, and then ABC wrote letters to the fact that they are not games of chance, they're games of skill. The player can use their skills to win every single time. So the problem I've got with all this, Bill, is, once all these people have already told, and look, I say this to you just about every day, regardless of the subject. These people have already shown me what they're trying to do to me. They want to take business from me that was not earned by somebody else and just give it to the casinos because they think the casinos deserve a monopoly and should not have to operate on the same level playing field that all the little small businesses operate. So the lottery has pushed a false narrative. The General Assembly has been swayed by money, power, and influence of the casinos. They have already tried to cut my balls out. I guess Not the best way to say it, but there it is. So once somebody does that to me, how do I trust any of them? I'm not going to. Not going to. Because I know where they are. I know what they feel. I know what they want to do. I know what their end game is. So I'm not being nice to people that I know are coming after my ass. I'm sorry. So in my view, there's plenty of business in this emerging gaming industry in the Commonwealth of Virginia. The casinos, charitable, Rosie's, lottery, online sports betting. There's a way for everybody to stay in their lane and do their business. But so far, the big bad bullies are continuing to step up to the plate and trying to take another swing at small businesses. And with you and Senator McDougal and our team of people that not only are fighting for what's right, Bill, but I'll say this too. We all are fighting this because we think it's right. These small businesses have constitutional rights that the casino people are trying to buy or pay their way for people not to recognize those rights. But in areas like we live in the Commonwealth of Virginia, these small businesses, contrary to what people think, are the backbones of these economies in rural areas of Virginia like we live in. And I'm just not going to sit by and let them put me out of business. They might end up winning. They got so much power, so many people on their side. They've got into the pockets of so many legislators. I mean, people are getting bought and paid for every day to come lobby the AG, lobby the governor, lobby this, lobby that. And I hope one of these days people will look up and realize they may know what they're lobbying for, but they're lobbying against the backbones of these areas in Southside Virginia. And we have put together, Senator Stanley, quite a coalition of small business owners that are really excited about, and thankful is a better word, that people like us are standing up for their rights, and so far have been winning in court.
Yes, sir. And will again, and won't stop. Ultimately, it's got to be solved by the legislature. I think now with the JLARC study and this that's going to come up with, is it right for Virginia Lottery to oversee all the gambling operations that are legally allowed in Virginia? Should we set up our own gaming commission like Nevada has? That means that the 2023 legislative session is going to be rife with legal issues once again and how we handle gaming. This big giant monster that we've created in Virginia, and it's going to get resolved. And hopefully, there's some resolution to skill games for those small business leaders. Even your great friend Janet Howe said that the next year's legislative session, when it comes to gambling, she says it is likely to be a brawl, and it's likely to have every lobbyist in Richmond involved, as you can see from the audience, as she pointed out, into a hearing room filled with people in suits. So even she knows how big this is. In her last year as a state senator.
Here's why it won't work, Bill. Another subject completely, but same principle. We've talked about it before. Joe Biden, before he was even elected, announced an assault on the fossil fuel industry, correct? He told everybody, I'm going to phase out fossil fuels. Before we even elected him, that's what he told us. Now, fast forward to now, and gas prices are through the roof, fuel prices are through the roof. My petroleum company is on allocation for diesel fuel. We're relying on countries to provide energy to us that do not like us, all because Joe Biden said, I'm going to phase out fossil fuels. That is the same thing that the lottery's been saying they want to do to skill games. They call them gray machines for 3 years. They want them out. They want them gone. They don't like them. They want people to think that they hurt their business. They're scuzzy. They're sleazy. All these things. So now I'm supposed to sit here and to believe that because some JLOC study says we should put the lottery in charge of them, all of a sudden the lottery is going to understand and appreciate and embrace skill games and not call them gray machines anymore, and recognize the value they have to small businesses, and recognize the fact that they can be regulated as they were under ABC. And by the way, we paid about 5 times the tax that the casino people are going to pay because they got a sweetheart deal from the General Assembly. So they're not going to all of a sudden show up and accept. That's why we got to keep fighting, Bill. We've got to fight for this because they don't accept us. They've already told us that. So just because some study says that they should put them in there, they are not a friend of small business. And you would think they would be.
You would think.
Because small businesses like mine have been in the trenches with the lottery for over 30 years when they first started. We're the ones that had the brick and the mortar and the electricity and the payrolls and all the money we spent to provide people in our stores to sell lottery tickets for a 5% commission. All these years, it has not increased in 30 years.
Really? You get 5%
Really?
on that's your gross sales of numbers of tickets? What if you have a winner?
Yes. It's not even you get a winner, that's another commission. But I'm saying on your daily sales of online lottery tickets, scratch tickets, we get a whopping 5%, not even enough to turn the lights on.
Wow. I didn't know that. You know, I'm in the Senate. You'd think I'd know that. And I apologize for not knowing that. So you're only getting a measly 5%, and you're the one putting it out onto the shelves. You're the one displaying it.
We've got the building, the lights, the electricity, the water bill, the payroll, the insurance, you name it. All they got there is their machine or the scratchers hanging above the cash registers.
See, I always thought there was just a bigger split for you guys since you were the tip of the spear for pushing these, gambling items from lottery.
5%.
Wow. I mean, that's 5% on $1. So that's 5 cents. Like if you buy a dollar scratcher, you get 5 cents.
Yep.
My God. Here's so we're really going to trust this entity to regulate.
And by the way,
the whole schmear.
They have not. And by the way, they have not been bashful at all about going more to online and sports betting and all these other things that now don't even require a person to come into the store.
Which kind of takes away from their own scratchers and those machines.
What a great partner they are.
Yeah, people can do it on their phone so they don't even have to go to your store and buy the scratcher, right? I mean, is that going to make the scratcher obsolete? Is it going to become obsolete?
I don't know, but I'm just saying you can read all the studies you want to and make of it what you want. But Virginia Lottery and their people, along with the General Assembly, they've already told old Hermie what they think of skill games. So there's no need for them to try to re-rack it and come at me again.
Right.
I already know.
Wow. Well, let me tell you what. That is amazing to hear that. And I think that makes it even more important what we're talking about, especially for not just those businesses that involve themselves in skill games, but those businesses that involve themselves in any part of the lottery. But again, it's a demonstration to small businesses generally what the government's going to do to you to get you to do their bidding and then not reward you for it. I mean, I'm just flabbergasted, my man. I'm just flabbergasted. But, this was leaning right. Let's lean right some more here. I was, there's a little thing that we get. It's like a legislative news insider. We get it emailed. I subscribe to it. And I get this in my phone, in my email today. And it was this title, Hermie. I'm going to read it to you. And oh, by the way, the Leaning Right moment is brought to you by Charlie's Waterfront Cafe in downtown Farmville, Virginia. Good food, good fun, right next to the Green Front Furniture Store in downtown Farmville. Go see Tommy Graziano and tell him we sent you. And we're really appreciative of his sponsorship. But here's the title. Brewer receives McDonald's endorsement, but another Republican figure in Virginia politics appears to be gearing up for a primary run against her. In the article, I won't read all of it, but of course, former Governor Bob McDonnell, friend of mine, helped him with his legal appeal when he was convicted. Good man. She rolls out an endorsement from former Governor Bob McDonnell of her Senate campaign in the 17th Senate District, which is one of those that you're interested in running. But then the article continues. There are rumors that a potential Virginia Republican figure is considering a run for the same nomination as Brewer next year. NASCAR driver Hermie Sadler is rumored to be considering a run for the Republican nomination in SD 17 in 2023. When reached for comment on Monday, Sadler told Virginia Scope, that's the news service that this comes from, that he does not want to distract from the congressional races, but he plans to make an announcement on November 9th, the day after the midterm elections. Sadler has no experience in politics, but he has been building a name for himself on the landscape in recent years. He was a big supporter of Kirk Coxter in his 2021 Republican gubernatorial run, and he's also suing the state government over the ban on skill games. Sadler also has a podcast show, believe it or not, with State Senator Bill Stanley. Stanley's representing Sadler in his lawsuit against the state. Sadler commented on McDonald's endorsement of Brewer on Monday. Quote, this was from Hermie. Quote, endorsements from political figures are not as important to me as much as the endorsement from the people who are going to be voting in this district, Sadler said. I think that was very prescient of him. Hermie, you're making the news as being a potential candidate in the SD 17. What do you have to say about that?
Well,
oh, and I'm going to sit back for like 20 minutes and just listen. Go ahead.
Politics, as you know way better than I do, it's just a tough game, and the article is correct in saying I don't have experience in politics. I have been talking with you, and we've talked about it on this podcast and in other venues for 6-8 months about the possibility of me running for state senate in this newly drawn 17th district. So it's not like it's a big, huge secret. That has never been what I've been trying to accomplish. But right, wrong, or indifferent, and people, trust me, people have tried to push me the other way of thinking. I've just always thought it was the proper and appropriate thing to do to allow people that are running in the midterms coming up next month to have the floor, have all the attention from the media, all the attention from constituents, all the attention from people that donate money in political circles and things of that nature. I have just said to everybody that I've talked to, met with, family members, people that I trust like you, George Allen, Governor Allen, everybody, I don't really know what the right thing to do is or when you're supposed to announce things or whatever, but I just didn't think it was appropriate for me to try to go out. Emily Brewer announced back in January, which would have been damn near 2 years before the election, that she was going to run for this seat. And I just didn't think it was right for me to, in any way, we're still over a year away from the election as we sit here today. And I've just, in spite of what some people have advised me to do, I've just said, I'm not making any announcements until after the midterms.
I think that's smart. I think because
I don't know if it is or not.
Well, no,
people telling me.
Well, think of it this way, Hermie. I mean, I've done this long enough, and I've worked for campaigns before I did this. There's a very important congressional race going on. That is an area where there's a very important congressional race going on that may determine the majority of the House of Representatives in Congress. None of our senators, United States senators, are up in Virginia this year, so that's not really a race. Be that as it may, when people are out there soliciting fundraising dollars for a Senate race that's not even going to go on for another 6-8 months during the congressional term or congressional races, that takes away money from those races. That when you're throwing out endorsements, and I want to talk a little bit about that, an endorsement of a former governor right now in October. I mean, what is it? What use is that? You're distracting from some very important congressional races. You're pulling away from the pool of monies. People give $5, $10, $2. You're pulling away money that could go to those races that could make a difference in the course of the history of the United States. But it's more important to roll out a fundraising letter, which I saw one of those came out from your potential opponent, and an endorsement from Governor Bob McDonnell. Just makes no sense to me. It's just, I don't see, or that's a good political move on anyone's part. And if you were doing it, I'd be up your backside telling you how wrong it was.
Yeah, and again, it's just a difference in philosophy. Obviously, Delegate Brewer has experience. She's been a delegate for 4 years, and she's got a system or a plan that she thinks is going to work for her, and that's what she's executing. But I've just taken a hard stand that I'm going to let, if the midterms coming up are not as successful as we need for them to be, even if I win the election, or even if Emily Brewer as a Republican wins the Senate seat next year, we still need the midterms to be successful next month first to give us even more ammunition, or put us in a better spot, to do things. It's just, I'm trying to quote unquote wait our turn, not just my turn, but me, Emily, or anybody else that may be thinking about running, but it's not our turn yet, in my opinion, in my view. The other thing that I guess I could say is frustrating, but she has a right to do it, because I have taken the stand on not making any announcements until after the midterms. And some of those fundraising letters that you've seen, and family members of mine and friends have sent them to me, she insinuates in those letters that there's nobody else going to be running, nobody else challenging for that seat. She insinuates that in some of her emails and letters, that, she is the choice. She's the only one. And she's doing that despite the fact that she's been to several events that I've been to and spoke on this matter and what my potential plans may be, and a timeline that I plan to execute them on. So let's be honest. She knows that I've been considering running. She knows I've got an announcement set up for November 9th, yet she is trying to represent to people that, hey, support me. I'm the only one that can win this seat for the Republicans. Send me all your money. And that's just, again, she's the experienced one, and I'm sure she's got plenty of smart people around her telling her what she should do. But again, win, lose, or draw, I have said from the beginning, and I'm saying it today, that it's not my turn yet, and I will announce my plans after the midterms. Now, the endorsement is a whole nother thing. I've told you multiple times in private, Senator Stanley, what my view on endorsements is, and that is, I'm not interested in going out and trying to approach people to get endorsements, especially from political figures in the Commonwealth of Virginia. As I said in that quote, I am way more concerned about the only endorsement I really need is from the voters in the 17th district, should I announce to run on the net. And other things are important to me. Law enforcement, city officials, those kind of things on the ground in rural parts of Virginia like I represent. But for me to go out and ask for or get and even announce an endorsement from a political figure, to your point, still over a year away from the election, is just not what I'm interested in, not what I would be doing. And not to mention the fact, you can bleep this if you don't want me saying it on the podcast, Bob McDonnell's not on my team either when it comes to fighting battles for small business. He is openly lobbying on behalf of charitable gaming, maybe even casinos and otherwise. So, I'm battling for small business. I'm pro small business, not only for me, but for all small businesses across the Commonwealth of Virginia. Governor McDonald, who I know and I like, I've been friendly with him over the years, but he's not on my team. And I've just told you 5 minutes ago that once somebody tells me they're not on my team, I forget about them. So I'm moving on to people that are more aligned with what my values are and more aligned with what my mission is to accomplish should I run and should I win a seat in the Senate of Virginia.
Well, I think, basically what you're saying too is, a lot of times, and we've said it before, politicians tend to think, and they use words like, this is my district, this is my seat. And that seat does not belong to them, does it, Hermie? It really doesn't. It's not my seat. It's not my district. It's a district I have the honor of representing. But that seat belongs to the people. And it seems to me that that's what you're articulating. And perhaps that's the kind of politician we always have to have, somebody who's mindful that that seat is maybe permanent, but our sitting in it is a temporary act. And probably if we thought about that more, I think about it every day, these politicians would act better, be more considerate, be more gracious, be more deliberate, and make sure that they used every day when they were in the capital of Richmond, making lives better in Virginia, and especially for the people of the district that they represent, the ones who have endorsed them for office.
So as we're recording now, this is Tuesday. I spoke last night in Virginia before I came to Tennessee. I spoke at the Dinwiddie County Republican Committee meeting. And what a fired up group of people they were. They were so engaged, listened, asked a lot of, between talking and answering questions, I probably stood up for an hour talking, which was really good, really engaging conversation. They asked me a lot of questions. But one of the questions one of the people asked me was really, like, to your point, how do you think how do you think you'll stack up against somebody like Delegate Brewer that already has 4 years experience? And I said, well, the beautiful thing about elections in a democracy is I don't decide that. Emily Brewer doesn't decide that. Bob McDonald's not going to decide that, or anybody else. It's going to be the people. The people get to decide if they want an experienced politician that, in some cases, experience can be good, but in some cases, experience could mean she's in a position where she has to make certain decisions or take certain votes that she's promised somebody, or part of the establishment, you might say, that may not always be in what's in the best interest of the people of this new 17th district. So the people can vote for somebody with experience that may come with a little bit of baggage, or they can vote for somebody that has a clean sheet of paper and can go stand up for and vote. So my point is experience always a good thing in politics? I don't know. Is it a good sign for somebody running for office to get endorsed by a former governor? Some might think it's good, some might not. Bob McDonald may not have made everybody happy when he was in office. Who knows? So I guess my point is, I want people to endorse me when I get to that point, that want to endorse me for who I am, what I'm fighting for, who I represent. I'm going to be responsive to the people that vote, not to politicians that endorse me or people that donate sums of money to me. That's not what it's about for me. I don't need their money. I need to stand up for the people of the 17th district that, in my opinion, as you told me to say so many times, as I've seen more and more legislation be dictated by Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads, Southside Virginia is being left behind, and we cannot afford for that to continue.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, let me always put it in the way that I think about it too a lot. Every legislator who gets elected started out with zero experience. Whether it's when you run for office the first time, when I ran for office the first time, didn't plan on doing it. I had experience organizing campaigns for others, but not in leading, not in being, a legislator in the process. So, those are learning curves that are very easy to overcome in your first session. But what's most important, I think you've hit upon, is who am I as a person? What kind of body of work have I done to this point when I decide to run? What do I stand for? What are the principles that matter to me that I can identify with the people that I represent? What's important to me? What do I stand for? And then third, what am I going to do as your legislator? Am I going to be going to all the cocktail parties and hanging out with lobbyists? Or am I going to be working 12 to 14 hours a day like I do at my regular job when I'm up at the Capitol, making sure that our lives get better? That's it. That's the litmus test. Not how many years you've served on the town council, or not how many events you've gone to, or who endorses you. It is really, who am I, what do I stand for, and what am I going to do with the privilege of serving you? And I think if you live by that, then you're going to be fine. You won't fall into that politician with maybe a past of doing things differently. I think that the clean slate thing is always a good thing. And certainly in this race, it's a new House, it's a new Senate District 17. It's new representation for Southside Virginia and the eastern part of Southside Virginia that they've never had before, because they've been dealing with Louise Lucas as their senator, who barely shows up and may just run in the 17th. So we really need to hammer that and retire that Democrat who has served Virginia for so long. So it's going to be an interesting race, but it was nice to see an article finally, unsolicited obviously by you, that says, hey, hold on there, Emily. Hold on there, Governor McDonald. There might be another choice for that electorate to determine who's going to run against the Democrat in the 17th Senate District in 2023. So hats off.
That's the beauty of the whole thing. I have every right, just like anybody else, to run for that seat. It belongs to the people.
Right.
The people will decide.
Yep.
And as I said it last night, said it earlier here, these same people can decide if they want experience or they want a fresh view, fresh set of eyes. My livelihood, my family, my businesses, everything are located all across this 17th district. And not only do I care about my businesses, other people in these small areas cannot do business with other small businesses if their businesses are not thriving. So we have got to create an environment, a pro-business environment that is less tax, less regulation. There are a lot of smart people across this 17th district that I know that can do a much better job investing their money in their businesses than the government telling them what and how to do it all the time. And I look forward to connecting with some of those people over the course of time. And Bill, look, I really and truly mean what I say when I said November 9th will be my turn. I just don't think it's my turn. But I will tell you, and you know some of this, there is a pretty large contingent of people, not only outside of politics, but in the political circle in Richmond, that have encouraged me to run and think I would, me or somebody like me would be a nice maybe change of pace, or maybe bring some balance and some levity, back into the Senate. And so I look forward to talking more about that in the coming weeks. But right now, the midterms should be everybody's focus right now for the next couple of weeks. As you know, I did an event for Leon Benjamin a couple of weeks ago at Faux Show. So I'm doing some things like that to try to draw attention to the people that are running and not make it about me right in the middle of somebody else's election.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right in doing it. And I think it shows not just political maturity, but a deference to especially those that are working on the ground so hard for those campaigns, those congressional campaigns. those organizations, the local Republican committees in that Senate district, they need to be focusing on that. At the same time, listening to you as they get more fired up for when 2022 ends and the 2023 Virginia election cycle begins. So it should be very interesting. In my last leaning right moment, I'm going to bring attention again. We're going to keep it in Virginia. We've been keeping it in Virginia here for the last couple of weeks. If you remember last week's podcast, and if you haven't listened to it, go back onto your favorite platform. You can find our whole library of over 40 podcast episodes there. They're all still very timely with great interviews. But last week we were talking about state Senate candidate Tina Ramirez, who had posted something on Twitter about teaching her daughter about Columbus Day, and a journalist, David Levitt, decided to call Child Protective Services on her for for child abuse because she was teaching her daughter about Christopher Columbus. How ridiculous. We also talked about back in the day, a couple episodes back, about the Pride Liberation Project's plans, where they were saying, they were encouraging actually students who are afraid of their parents if they came out as trans or gay or bi or whatever. They were encouraging them that they were going to find them a safe place to stay, rehome them, get them away from their parents, basically abduction, in my mind, as I articulated again. Well, now, if you thought this was just some kind of loony left stuff and that really wasn't going to affect the Commonwealth of Virginia, here comes Delegate Elizabeth Guzman out of Fauquier County. Oh, said Franklin. Out of Fauquier County, who filed a bill, who filed for drafting. We file bills for drafting. Filed a piece of legislation that she's going to introduce in the 2023 General Assembly session in January that will have parents criminally prosecuted if they do not affirm their child as transgender. Teachers and social workers would report parents to Child Protective Services, the same as Mr. Levitt, the journalist, did to Tina Ramirez, under the bill for criminal prosecution. Hermie, Elizabeth Guzman, who I've met, and I've actually helped on one of her bills, not anywhere near this, a nonpartisan bill, when she was first elected. Guzman told a TV station in Washington, D.C., Channel 7, quote, "It could be a felony, it could be a misdemeanor, but we know that CPS charge could harm your employment, could harm their education, because nowadays many people do a CPS database search before offering employment." So it's unbelievable what she's basically doing, which is, and quite frankly, this bill is not something new. She tried to introduce it in 2020, and it got shot down. This is a bill that says parents don't have rights with their kids. Parents don't have involvement with their kids. It assumes that if you have a child and you're a heterosexual family and you have a child that says, "Hey, I think I may be trans," that one, you're going to be totally against them. Two, you're going to abuse them physically, mentally, or otherwise. Or three, you're going to prevent them from having transgender affirming care or corrective surgery at the teenage years when you're in charge of your kids. I mean, and if you're going to do that, then quite frankly, you're a child abuser, and you should have your child pulled from the home and I guess sent off to these organizations that will rehome them in what they say is more queer-friendly homes. So, I mean, I'm just flabbergasted that this is happening, but I think it's a clarion call for us all. It's the canary in the coal mine. This is, if they can get away with it, they're going to get away with it. But dysmorphia is a part of that, underlying mental health issue that causes men and women to believe that they may be of another gender, and they may have another gender except the one that was biologically given to them. It's called dysmorphia. Usually dysmorphia resolves itself after years, but right now they're pushing this transgenderism on children, and now we're going to codify it that if I, as a dad, didn't agree, my own flesh and blood, that I somehow, if I just don't agree, if I don't affirm, that's what the statute says, if I don't affirm my child is transgender, then I'm committing an act of child abuse, akin to beating your kid, and that I shouldn't have my child, my flesh and blood, with me. It should be then taken by the government and given to someone who will affirm their care. I'm just beside myself. Here we're doing it in Virginia. This shows it's right on our back doorstep.
it's just unbelievable. You know, we bring up stuff like this from time to time on the podcast, and it sometimes I have to just shake my head and like, what are you talking about? You know, and it's just sad. It's a sad narrative that's being pushed, and it's dangerous. It's so far. When I hear people talking about now, Republican Party, Democrat Party, you know, the Democrat Party of 10 years ago, I mean, it's non-existent. It's not even in the same ballpark as this stuff we're dealing with now. But people, they're going to learn. If they didn't learn last election, if they don't learn these midterms, they'll eventually learn that when you start messing with people's kids and talking about their kids, that's where a lot of families are going to draw the line.
Yeah.
And they're losing support. And
they keep coming.
I don't know when or if they'll ever get it.
But they keep coming with this stuff. I mean, Elizabeth Guzman, have you had your TV off for the last 6 months? You're in Fauquier County, which is right next to Loudoun County. Have you not seen what's happened in these school board meetings? Have you not seen the uprising of parents in protecting their children and the primacy of them being the primary educator and raiser of their children? I mean, Delegate Guzman, have you forgotten that Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin introduced model policies that absolutely says that schools should not and cannot hide a student's gender transition from the parents? Have you not read further where it says that should be a mutual decision with parents' involvement and the school and the student? Not that somehow if the parent has a different view of the world or refuses to get gender correcting surgery or put puberty blockers in their kid, that somehow, you know, with that being actual physical surgical mutilation, that by not doing it, you're doing the same as if you were beating on your child. Give me a break. This is just ridiculous. And yet we see it. Now, Don Scott, I'll give you, you know, we've talked about Don Scott on this program before. He's the minority leader over in the House. The prior Speaker of the House, prior to Todd Gilbert, was dethroned as the minority leader after she lost the speakership when the Republicans took a 52-48 lead last year and majority in the House of Delegates in Virginia. Don Scott got wind of this because this is now just spread across the media. And yesterday he said, "Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. No. It's almost like a trial balloon. I don't know if they were just sitting out there and see what happens. But then, of course, then they backtrack and say, oh, again, here we do the same thing again. Oh, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Nope, we would never do that. You know, we never teach CRT, but then they go back and say, we're teaching CRT. They say, oh, no, we're not going to criminalize parents who disagree or don't affirm their child's gender transitioning. Oh, no. But then they'll come back to it. And this is a bill that has been dropped in the Commonwealth of Virginia 2 years before. Here it comes again. And they are tone deaf. And then when they get caught, when the curtain gets ripped back, they just go, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. We'll just bring it back when, you know, it's a better atmosphere. This is why we say stand up, action, defend, you know, get involved. Because if we don't, bills like these become law. And let me tell you, in my 11 years, I've seen some pretty ridiculous bills that have become law over my objection that I think have not helpful for public school education, for the students, and for parents. And and for law enforcement and everything else. It's gotten us into this mess with your higher crime rates, higher suicide rates, higher drug rates in the community. These are bad pieces of legislation that need to not just die, but we need to be reminded of every single time so that we do not bring this up again.
What did I say was the reason why I was waiting to November the 9th to talk about a potential run next year? These midterm elections, for all the reasons that you just talked about and hundreds of others, are very, very important that we have conservative people in the right places that can help, you hate to say it, protect our kids. So people better start paying attention. I think they are. But these midterms, people need to wake up, pay attention, get out and vote, and do everything you can and get involved at any kind of level that you feel comfortable getting involved in, school board level, right on all the way up, statewide office, whatever you feel like you need to do, because the time is now. We can't wait anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's my leaning right moments for this week, and I appreciate it. And as always, brought to you by Charlie's Waterfront Cafe in downtown Farmville, Virginia. But before we get to your leaning left moments.
Turning left.
Right, turning left moments. Sorry. See, we don't have the sign, so I didn't read it. So I punched that one. Michael Myers sure is scary, but the last thing you need is to be hairy this Halloween. Luckily for our friends at Manscaped, they've launched their 4th generation performance package to make sure your pumpkins get the ultimate carving experience on this spooky day. Turn your bite-sized treat into king-sized candy and join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the promo code SADLER. Yes, that's right, promo code SADLER, SADLER. Make the right call this spooky season. It's trick or trim. Have you ever tried to trim your doodads and it turned into a Freddy Krueger film? Well, luckily Manscaped is here to save the day and make sure that you're feeling your best in your Halloween costume. Unlock your confidence with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside, you will find the holy grail of men's grooming items. They've made it easy for you to upgrade to your grooming routines. It's a full moon out there, and the werewolf in your pants is howling. It's time to tackle that problem with the Lawnmower 4.0. Their finely tuned products feature a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is easily the greatest trimmer on the planet. Oh, did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? This trimmer is a shower essential, Brad Tuesday. It is. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes a weed whacker, total game changer for your men's hygiene arsenal. I'm telling you right now, I use it. I love it. In fact, gentlemen, I would also say the body wash and shampoo and conditioner is quite a good thing to add to your list when you're doing your Halloween shopping at manscaped.com. Go get one of those weed whacker nose and ear trimmers. It has also the skin-safe technology that prevents those snags that are so very painful, and then seal the deal with the liquid formulations, the crop preserver, the deodorant and reviver, the crop reviver even, the ball toner. This will make sure your pumpkins stay fresh. Trust me when I say this, fellas, your doodads down in the nether regions will thank you. Manscaped also has now launched, by the way, gentlemen, the new Body Buffer. This 100% antibacterial body scrubber is just what you need to keep fresh and clean on this Halloween. Manscaped's even thrown in 2 free gifts for their Performance Package 4.0. Manscaped Boxers, which I think Hermie looks very good in, by the way, and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort in boxers to another level. And also, if you're looking like a Wolverine and haven't cut your nails recently, be sure to look into the Shears 2.0 Nail Kit. Remember, gentlemen, it is your turn to shine and to groom. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code SADLER at manscaped.com. That's 20% off, free shipping with promo code SADLER, like as in Hermie Sadler, at manscaped.com. Say trick or treat to your beautiful new Halloweeny. God, I read that. With Manscaped. Thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring our episode this week as we get close to Halloweeny. And I guess I drew the
enjoy
short
that
straw.
way too much.
Well, I mean, look, we always take our sponsors very seriously. We always try to make sure that we appreciate them, and I appreciate their products. So I actually use a lot of their products, and it's really good, and you should try it. So if anybody out there wants to get 20% off, really, these are great Christmas gifts. It's a great thing to have. Once you start, man, you love doing it. It's easy. Go to manscaped.com, get 20% off.
You love doing it. Okay.
Just like you love doing this commercial. Get 20% off with promo code SADLER.
Hi, folks. This is Hermie Sadler. Thanks for listening to our all-new podcast, Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator. I hope you are enjoying the show as much as Senator Stanley and I enjoy bringing it to you. Whether you're a family traveling together or a truck driver hauling freight up and down the highway, I hope you will take the time to visit one of our Sadler Travel Plaza locations in Virginia and North Carolina. Sadler Travel Plaza locations are licensed dealer locations for Pilot Travel Centers, and we also carry Shell Motiva petroleum products for our four-wheel friends. We pride ourselves on providing one-stop shopping for service, food, and entertainment. Our food options include Five Guys Burgers and Fries, Quiznos, Dairy Queen, Hermie Sadler's Faux Show Bar and Grill, Victory Lane Restaurant, Hunt Brothers Pizza, Dunkin' Donuts, and much, much more. Our locations include Sadler Travel Plaza in South Hill, located off I-85 at exit 12. The Sadler Travel Plaza of Emporia, which is conveniently located on exit 11B off I-95, and Sadler Travel Plaza on Highway 58 in Suffolk. We also have our North Carolina location, Sadler Travel Plaza in Dunn, North Carolina. That's exit 75 off I-95. We appreciate all of our customers. And Bill and I appreciate you listening to Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic.
Hey, this is Bill Stanley, Hermie Sadler's sidekick on this podcast. When I'm not in Richmond at the Capitol or doing this podcast, my real job for the past 27 years is as a trial attorney with the Stanley Law Group. Here at the Stanley Law Group, we represent our clients in every courthouse in the Commonwealth. No problem is too small for us to solve. No case is too big for us to win. Whether it's criminal charges, traffic offenses, civil disputes, litigation matters of any sort, we handle it all. We make sure that we treat every client like family because they are to us. Your problem is our problem. Your success is our success because we hate to lose more than we love to win. And believe me, we win a lot. Don't believe me? Go ask Hermie. I'm his favorite lawyer, and he hates lawyers. So give us a call at 540-721-6028 and let us help you. Or visit our website at www.vastanleylawgroup.com. That's www.vastanleylawgroup.com. At the Stanley Law Group, we'll make sure we're the lawyers that you swear by and not at. So there you go. So, Hermie, let's turn left out of this commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, let's turn left. Turning left on Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator is sponsored by, how am I going to make Laura Stanley Vista Installations commercial 7 minutes long also?
Was it 7 minutes? I go ahead. I mean, she'll appreciate it. She loves you, Herm. She loves you. Whatever you do.
Laura Stanley with Vista Installations sponsors our Turning Left moment. Vista Installations is a successful window and door installation company. And Laura Stanley has been babysitting Mr. Manscaped himself for well over 12 years. How about that?
That's good. See, there you got it in.
Hey, so two quick things on the Turning Left.
Mm-hmm.
You know, coming up this Saturday, this podcast will drop on Thursday. Coming up this Saturday is the season finale of the Smart Modified Tour. And I think I speak for both of us when I say that it's been an honor to have Sadler Stanley Racing compete in the Smart Modified Tour this year. And we, like everybody else, want to win every week, but we got a couple poles and we've had a solid season and had a big win. We also won North Wilkesboro with Ryan Newman, not necessarily a smart race, but so we've had some success. But isn't it weird how fast this season has flown by, Bill? It's like we just started and boom, the season finale is this weekend at Motor Mile Speedway.
Yeah, I remember about this time last year, we were contemplating doing it, trying to see a way we could do it. In January, we were at the shop, and I said, "Where's the car?" And they pointed down on the ground, and there were tubes and pieces of metal on the ground. And they said, "There's your car." And here we are finishing up a series that actually took, a 12, 13-week break. And here we are finally at the last race. It should have been last week, but the Motor Mile in Dublin, Virginia, outside of Radford, got canceled because of Hurricane Ian, and they moved it to this week. So we're in kind of like racing overtime with Smart. But, look, Look,
Look.
I think for a great
You
first
love that I
effort-
pointed that out to you, don't
Oh
you?
God, you caught me in one of my idiosyncrasies, and now you just kill me with it all the time. It's funny.
Well, every once in a while you throw in, listen.
Yeah. So listen, look. What we have here is, though, we have a really good effort, and a good effort for our sponsor, a good effort for our driver. Jonathan Brown's done a great job. Ryan Newman did a great job. You've managed this team, I think, really well. Phil Stefanelli and PSR Products has done a great job. But I think last week you were saying not just the thrill of victory, but also the agony of defeat. And when we were talking about the agony of defeat on a restart, having a difference of opinion on how that was handled. We've had also some mechanical issues, and we had one at Tri-County. Let's talk about that a little bit. Tell everybody what happened.
Well, first one all year, but we broke an engine in the Jonathan Brown number 22 Pace-O-Matic car at Tri-County. So that was disappointing. We want to finish the season strong. So we were fast in practice, fastest in practice, qualified towards the front, had a fast car. Sometimes parts and pieces break, but that's unfortunate. It prevented our guys from getting the finish that they deserve. So hopefully they'll be back this weekend at Motor Mile and really go back to where it all started for you and I, Saddler Stanley Racing, Motor Mile Speedway this Saturday night. We look forward to that. But I need you to explain something to me.
Sure. Well, I'll give it a shot.
Last week we talked about Saddler Stanley Racing, and we had one car that got at Hickory. We got one car that got knocked into the wall. We got another car that got penalized on a restart, and you and I voiced some of our displeasure about how the rules were maybe being enforced fairly across the board and whatnot. There was a little bit of drama last week.
Yeah, a little.
But it seems like this week the drama meter went even higher, because after the race this past Saturday night at Tri-County, Burt Myers, who won the race, was disqualified in post-race inspection, which not only took away the trophy he was going after Saturday night, took him out of the Smart Series final 3 drivers at Racing for a Championship this Saturday night at Motor Mile. So Caleb Hetty, Bobby Labonte, and Brandon Ward will be racing for a championship. But what do you know, or what can you offer up on what the situation was behind Burt Myers? Anything that you can, if you don't know, you don't know.
No,
I'm just curious.
I know, and had heard about it first. And before I tell that, so we blew an engine like in lap 7. We were not involved in any of the drama. I guess somebody said we threw a rod through the block, which is what sounds like certain death in an engine to me. And we spilled a lot of oil all over the track. I heard it took like 13, 14 bags of Speedy Dry. So we weren't running a second car. So we were out of the race pretty early on. And it was a good race if you were watching it on TV. It had less cautions that we've seen before. There was no Matt Hirschman out there, just tearing it up. And so it came down to Burt Myers, who is a longtime veteran, the last year's champion, Smarty Trophy winner, series champion, was driving his vehicle, drove it to victory, and this time Smart decided, because they had the people, they had the wherewithal and the ability, they were going to tear down the cars, the first, second, and third place cars, to make sure that they complied with Smart rules. Smart rules basically are NASCAR rules for wheeling open modifieds with some changes. One of those rules says you cannot have data collection devices on the car, and just on the car, whether it's operating or not on the car. Well, it turns out that, and I heard this from people who were on the ground at the time, so I'm not saying anything that I shouldn't be saying, but at the time when the cars came to stripping down, the officials were looking at some wires and asked Burt to remove the left rear quarter panel and one of the rear quarter panels to see what was in it, and that his team refused to remove that piece. And then they said, basically, you got 5 minutes to do it or we're going to DQ you. He does that. They find a device which is a device that collects data on how the car is performing. You can't have it during a race, but it also acts or can function as traction control, which I guess controls by electronic means the back traction of the wheels on the car. And that perhaps this was hooked up, and that perhaps that was the purpose of it, and that's a huge no-no. And so instead of being in first and the top three running for the chase, basically the championship race, running for his second consecutive championship, veteran Burt Myers is now sidelined, is not going to be able to race for that championship. We had finished last in the race by the time I turned Flow Racing off for the Tri-County race. When I woke up in the morning, we finished second to last because he was put behind us, and we had blown a motor 7 laps in. So you got to wonder what Smart's going to do. You know, they basically DQ'd him there, took away his win. He's out of the championship. Will there be more penalties? Who knows? Because obviously Smart is now getting more serious about really making sure that it's a level playing field for everybody who comes onto the track, that we're not dealing with devices or using things that are not prescribed by the rules. That makes for a better series. That makes for a more fair series. And certainly I think it's important, the integrity of any kind of race series, that you're not cheating. But, you know, this is their flagship guy, Burt Myers, getting caught after winning a race.
Just so you know,
that's big stuff.
Yeah, my concern, I'll speak for me, the frustrations that I had at Hickory, certainly I was frustrated with the restart call that put Jonathan Brown in the rear. I was disappointed that another competitor just dive bombed into turn 3 with 10 laps to go and wiped out one of our cars for 7th place, all that. But really and truly, my concern, everybody involved wants the series to be the best it can be.
Yes.
We want the best series we can race in. We want it to be competitive. But more importantly, we want it to be a level playing field. And so that was some of the things that I think not only us, but other people in the series that spend money to compete in the series as competitors started reaching out to management with the Smart Tour and said, hey, we've got to make sure that technical inspection procedures and protocols are followed each and every week and done fairly and consistently across the board on every car. So I didn't like that our car got sent to the rear at Hickory. I don't like the fact that Burt Myers got disqualified. But the part that I do like is it looks like the Smart Series is starting to understand the importance of transparency and making sure that the competitors understand that the ones that are putting on the show, that the rules are going to be impartially applied across the board, and that everybody, and I told you this 100 times this year, I don't like when our cars get outrun, especially get our ass kicked, but I can accept it a little bit better if I have a reasonable certainty that the cars that outran us are playing by the same rules that we are, or following the rule book in the way that we are.
Yeah.
So maybe that's as we close out this season with these little bumps in the road for the Smart Series, maybe in the long term it'll be a benefit, because really nothing can kill a series. Before Chris Williams and the Smart Tour came back in and kind of revived the Southern Modified Tour,
mm-hmm.
and I don't mind saying openly and publicly that you and I lobbied to Pace-O-Matic, our primary sponsor, to get involved, to try to help create these opportunities and invest money in these small towns and short tracks and the communities and small businesses. I mean, there's a whole list of reasons why this series could be and should be important to these communities. But before Chris Williams and his group came in and, let's just say, breathed life back into the series, prior to that, it was on life support. And do you know one of the reasons why it was on life support?
I do not. Why?
Is because nobody was held to an account by the rules. It was cheating going on, widespread
run with what you brung, as you like to say.
Gray areas. Huh?
You used to say run with what you brung, kind of.
Run what you brung. But, that's no way for a series to survive long term. And it just comes back down to that way, who's cheating the most, who knows the officials, who's buddies with the tech people. And people, not long term, they don't want to race like that. They want somebody to be in charge, and they want to have rules to go by. It saves the teams money. It puts on a better show. And the competitors and the fans know when they leave the track that night that the best car and the best driver that night won the race, not maybe somebody that got by with something more so than the other guys did. So I applaud, even though it's a little bit confusing, a little bit of a setback. And I think you will agree that a lot of the fans and a lot of the competitors were kind of taken aback by the fact that they did all this technical inspection this past weekend. And I think some of it had to do with the fact that not just us, but others complained to management of the series that there's got to be some technical standards, some tech standards held to in this series. And I think we saw that this past Saturday night.
Yeah. And that if we have rules, they need to be applied. And if they need to be applied, they need to be applied evenly to every team. Because, we've got a sponsor. Some people have sponsors. Some people are working on these cars in their shop at home. I mean, they're putting out the expense for this, that the purse money actually means something to them because it may help them race the next week. And it seems like to me, if somebody's not working inside the rules, of not doing what's right, then you're taking money from those people that work so hard that do play by the rules. And I think if you shut it down now, as we've seen in 2 weeks, no shenanigans on restarts, okay, we may not agree with that, but okay. And apply the rule to everybody on that. And then the same way that we saw here when a car is torn down in the winner's circle and something illegal is found, then that's also a deterrent to keep in future races, race car drivers and race car owners and crew chiefs, car chiefs from bringing in equipment that does not comply with the rules. So I think that's a very important first step. I hope it's more consistent because the Smart Series has really, under Chris Williams' leadership, has grown. And in prominence and popularity, his car counts higher sometimes than the Whelen modified races. He has done a very good job there, but when you grow, there are growing pains, and when there are growing pains, you need to make changes and become more proficient, efficient, and put that great product out there every weekend where you go into one of these short tracks and want to encourage people to come out and spend their money to watch the race. You got to have not just a good product to watch, but a fair product. I don't think anybody has ever watched a sporting event and said, man, I'm so glad they cheated. That's never a good thing. In sports, the virtue is being honest and playing by the rules. So looks like that happened. We'll see if Smart does anything to Burt Myers, who is really one of their flagship drivers. We'll see if they do anything more to really drive that point home or not. Later in the week, we'll talk about it next week. But very interesting. And Facebook and Twitter were exploding with conspiracies and why are they doing this now? And they let these people get away with it. Well, let's hope that this just shuts this all down and everybody plays on a fair playing field from here on out.
One last thing. After the finale at Motor Mile in the Smart Series, the following Thursday night, the Whelen Modified Tour under the NASCAR banner is going to be in your part of the country as well, competing under the lights at Martinsville Speedway.
Yes.
Do you want to announce your drivers for that race now, or do you want to wait?
Well, my partner has not told me who the other driver is because it could be one of two people, but I do know that running in the 39 VA for Sadler Stanley Racing will be none other than our guy who we love so much, great NASCAR driver, great driver period, Ryan Newman. Do you know who the other one
Ryan Newman will be in the 39 at Martinsville Speedway on October the 27th under the lights at Martinsville Speedway.
Do we have the second driver's name?
The second driver's name that will be competing in the number 17 at Martinsville because of numbers that are available through NASCAR at this time will be right now on a one race deal for Sadler Stanley Racing as teammate to Ryan Newman at Martinsville will be Hall of Famer Bobby Labonte.
No way. No way. You're kidding me. Bobby Labonte is going to be driving the SSR car in the wheeling race.
Bobby Labonte and Ryan Newman are your drivers at Martinsville next Thursday night under the lights at Martinsville in the NASCAR Wheeling Modified Tour race.
Son of a gun. Look at you. Wow, that's awesome. I mean, that's got to look. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, tell your friends, you got to come to this wheeling race now in Martinsville, one of the most historic short tracks in all of Virginia and all the world. And now we're going to have Bobby Labonte and Ryan Newman driving the two SSR cars.
Teammates.
Wow. Yep. That's awesome, man. Oh, man, that's great. So make sure you go to MartinsvilleSpeedway.com, get your tickets. You got to go out there. It's the Thursday before the big race weekend. It kicks off the race weekend. We are at New College Institute, which I'm going to have to leave and go to in a minute. We are having a talk about NASCAR, short track racing, open wheel modified racing, history of open wheel modified racing at New College Institute on Tuesday. That's the day before. We'll send out some information, make sure everybody goes to that. You've got Satch Worley coming there, Jimmy Hensley. It should be and we're going to have a spotter there, Josh Williams, who spots, I think, for Penske. Isn't that right? So
Ryan Blaney.
So, I mean, it's going to be a great talk. It's a great informational talk at a great educational institution, New College Institute. So what do you think about this Vegas, or as everybody's calling it, the Bubba race? But wow.
Yeah.
Bobby Labonte and Ryan Newman, man. Chad, you're going to have to go to that.
Bobby Labonte and Ryan Newman.
Chad, you need one of your die-cast medals signed by Ryan Newman. Yeah. Okay, so now you need to go to the wheeling race because you're going to have Ryan and Bobby there. There you go. Well done, Executive Vice President of Sadler Stanley Racing. Well done.
Yeah, so that'll be fun having those two guys. The Bubba Wallace issue at Las Vegas, obviously Bubba's a lightning rod. He gets a lot of attention, sometimes for the wrong reasons, in my view. But I just feel like right now, with all the questions about this particular car, and you've got two drivers that are currently not competing due to head injuries, concussions, and whatnot. I thought that was a bad move from Bubba Wallace to react the way he did against Kyle Larson in the heat of the moment.
Do you think it was intentional? He said it wasn't. He said,
sure, it was intentional.
Because I didn't think that hitting the wall like that was going to jam up your car and lock up your steering.
If he'd have just took a deep breath, the way the cars were, his call probably would have been fine, and he could have kept on going. But he snapped, which is you just can't do that inside of a race car. You cannot use your car as a weapon, and that's what he used his car as a weapon. So we'll see later this week maybe what goes on with Bubba Wallace. But look, Bubba has had a great year. He's won a non-restricted plate race, another step in the right direction for him. But in these cars at those speeds, you've got to handle it a different way. And I'm just thankful that Kyle Larson didn't get injured, and hopefully Bubba will learn from it. I know he issued some type of an apology, but you just can't do that in these cars. They're too dangerous right now to do that.
Yeah, but he didn't issue an apology to Kyle Larson. He didn't say, I BS'd you guys in the interview saying that the car locked up and it just went where it went and ended up where it ended up. It seemed to me that was, and as Kyle Larson even said, that was an aggressive move. I got loose coming out of the turn. I dove down and got loose, pushed him up the racetrack a little bit. Didn't mean to. It happens. I expected, maybe a little retaliation, but not like that. And then I think the real ugly part of it was, because, I don't mind emotion in NASCAR. I don't mind any emotion. But yelling at him is one thing, but just pushing him and he's not defending himself. It's not like you're getting into a wrestling match and just continuing to do it. It just seemed like I think you said, he snapped. It just seemed like a lack of control. Bubba's a good driver, race car driver. He needs to get it together. He's good for the sport. He's also good.
He's established himself now. He doesn't need to act outside the box to get attention. He's getting attention now for being a good race car driver, and that's the way it should be. Again, maybe he'll learn from it, and I'm thankful Kyle Larson didn't get hurt, because from what we've seen with these cars, the wrong kind of impact that not even this high rate of speed as they were running on Sunday can be really dangerous.
Yeah, and you know, he's a part of the new up and coming teams 2311. Do you think they penalize him? I guess today's Tuesday. Usually penalties come out. We haven't seen anything yet, but I guess, you know, would they park him? You look on Twitter and people are like calling for criminal charges against him, and he tried to murder a race car driver. I mean, I don't go that deep into the woods, but I think NASCAR's got to make a statement here, more than just points and cash, as they usually do on these penalties. You think they might park him, you know, for a race or two here in the
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking through Twitter right now. I haven't seen anything yet. It's just hard to say.
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
Yeah,
NASCAR now has data that they can look at and look at throttle traces, and if he tried to hit the brake and steering and all that. But maybe they'll get at something today. But the most important thing is Kyle Larson didn't get hurt. And again, I hope Bubba learns from that, because you can't snap and use a 3,600-pound race car as a weapon. Can't do it.
Yeah, and Joey Logano, I thought, ran a great race. I thought he looked really good in the way that he won it, and the closing parts of that race were great. My son's second favorite race car driver, my son Chandler, loves Joey Logano. When he was a young boy, met him, got his autograph, but couldn't say his full name. Used to call him Gano. So he screamed for Gano when Gano was getting ready to go to the lead. So now I'm going to have to tell my son Chandler that his first favorite race car driver, Bobby Labonte, will be driving the SSR racing machine at Motor Mile in the wheeling race. So finally the conflict can, at least for some period of time, come to a resolution with having my youngest son cheering for a team other than SSR. So thanks for making peace in my family, Hermie. That was really nice of you.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Looking forward to and this Friday night on my way home from Nashville and prior to the race at Motor Mile on Saturday night, I'm going to be at right here at the Second Alarm, a restaurant, and the address to that is, you know what the address is?
No, but I'm glad you're not reading the Manscaped commercial. That would have taken 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's a Second Alarm. It's in Roanoke. You can call them. I'm gonna be there on this Friday, from
you need
5
yourself
to
a Brad
7
Tuesday.
p.m.
Brad just handed, and that's 4608 Williamson Road in Roanoke, Virginia 24012. Second Alarm, a 5-star rated sports bar, obviously supported with skill games. Hermie's going to be doing a meet and greet with our team, I believe, also, and the car will be there. We'll have a lot of door prizes, tickets to the event at the Motor Mile Speedway on Saturday. That race has been moved to kind of the afternoon because it gets a little colder in the evening time. So check on your race times for the Smart Series finale there at Motor Mile Speedway. It should be in the afternoon, like 4 or 5 o'clock, I think, this time rather than 8 or 9. And let's see you out there supporting SS Racing. Even though we're not going to run for a championship, you get to see Bobby Labonte. He's going to be running for a championship before he runs in our car at the wheeling race. But quite frankly, I think we can, if we place well, Herm, we can maybe get a top 5 in owner points and maybe even driver points. Isn't that right? If you ain't first, you're last. I hear you. We just hope we get a trophy. All right, Ricky
Saturday.
Bobby.
We want to win the race.
Yes, sir.
Jonathan Brown can win the race. That'll be a good finish to the season, finish on a strong note, give us a lot of momentum as a team going into Martinsville. So that's the hope. Yep. Jonathan Brown wins Saturday, and either Bobby Labonte or Ryan Newman win at Martinsville on Thursday night. That's what the plan is. Yep. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And this has been a great podcast again. We didn't even have a guest, but we never shut up, so we wouldn't have even been able to allow to have a guest talk. But we had a lot to talk about, Hermie, and it's always good talking. Sometimes we need to just do this and get a couple issues out, get them on the table, and I really, the couple times we've done podcasts like this, I've really enjoyed it. So me too, bud. I think people are going to be interested in it and can learn from it, and we cover a lot of stuff today. So I hope people enjoy it. And I want to wish the best of luck to Cody Angle in his upcoming death match
with the Herminator, Hermie Sadler, which is down there in Tennessee. Hermie, safe travels. Tell Double J and the whole family I said hello and give them my love and support. And see if we can get DW on the podcast here sometime soon. He does our intro for us. If you can't tell already, when you hear this beginning of this podcast, that's the great Darrel Waltrip. Let's see what these boys have to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to another edition of Leaning Right and Turning Left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. Hermie, God bless you, man. Thanks for another great show.
Enjoyed it, buddy.
I'm Virginia
I'll
State.
see you Friday at Motor Mile.
I just stepped
in
on.
Roanoke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Be safe, and I'll see you at Motor Mile on Friday and Saturday. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Virginia State Senator Bill Stanley, and I'm leaning right.
I'm former NASCAR driver and Fox Sports analyst Hermie Sadler, and I'm turning left, leaning right, and turning left with Sadler and the Senator, powered by Pace-O-Matic. We'll see you next week.
God bless you, everybody.
Listen, man, I know it sounds too good to be true, but I want you to just do me a favor and run on over to savewithconrad.com. Get yourself a quick quote. My man Andy M. just left us a 5-star review over at conradreviews.com, and he had this to say. The effort and communication from Josh was above and beyond. We ran into several unexpected hiccups along the way, but Josh kept us informed and kept looking for options to get things done. In the end, we were still able to refinance to a 15-year loan, where we're going to be able to pay it off in 10. And we took enough cash out to pay off our credit cards, my truck loan, and even buy my wife her very first new vehicle. We're going to save over $500 a month from what we would have been paying without the refinance. We can't thank everyone enough. Now, guys, that right there is a win-win-win situation. Let me explain. Over the last couple of years, your house is probably worth more than ever. Now, what you do with that equity is up to you. And what I'm going to recommend is we do what our man Andy did. Andy took himself from a 30-year loan down to 15 years, but he's planning to pay it off in 10. Now, how can he afford to do that? We got rid of all his credit card debt, just like that. We got rid of his truck loan, and we even got him enough cash to get his wife a new vehicle. The result? Cheaper monthly payments. How does that happen? How do you get a new car, pay off a truck, and get rid of your credit cards and cut years off your loan? You go to savewithconrad.com. We're going to get you cheaper monthly payments, and how's this for starters? No house payments for the next 2 months. That's right. You can skip your next 2 payments. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And buddy, if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And here's the best part. We don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. Now, I don't care if you were late here or there. Maybe you had a bankruptcy back in the day. Maybe you were late on a credit card. We're going to help you figure out how to get in the situation that your family needs now and long term. We want to be your mortgage advisor for life at savewithconrad.com.